Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the first ever edition of the C2 Wrestling podcast. Now, if you are watching on YouTube, you see these two handsome faces. You see myself, Chris, and you see,
Chris.
that's right, C2, Chris and Chris. If you are listening on any other platform, thank you for joining us. This is our first ever video, not only on YouTube, but also on Spotify, on Apple, with our podcast. Now, if you are watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. We have a ton of ideas on what we're going to do with YouTube. Snowden,
Yep, what's
I
up?
know we've had a little bit of a past with YouTube for anyone watching
Yes,
that knows.
yes.
What are you looking forward to doing on YouTube?
Well, this is crazy. This is a long time coming for us. We do have a little bit of a past with YouTube wrestling content in particular, and we went pretty hard for a short period of time, and it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of great stuff out there. Made a small, very small name for ourselves. In this kind of online wrestling community, and it's fun just to get back out there, get involved, talk wrestling again. We talk about this stuff every day as is. We might as well just talk about it and put it online. Hear other people's thoughts, opinions. Obviously, the world we come from is reactions. We would react a lot to wrestling, and we're going to get involved in that realm, I'm sure, too, with this channel. But this is a lot just discussion, review, us talking shop. Just talking the world of wrestling, opinions, hearing people out. We're gonna see what comes our way. Like you said, we got a million ideas, so we're just kind of starting off with some basic stuff, but we got a lot coming your way.
Yeah, if you are listening on Spotify or whatever platform it may be, this podcast will drop weekly on that, and we will drop a video version on YouTube. But our YouTube channel will have more. We will do clips from podcasts. We will do reaction videos at some point. We will do prediction videos that are separate from a podcast. You name it. Like it could be anything from WWE 2K to a hypothetical video to a fantasy booking. It could be almost anything. It is going to be a wrestling channel just by two wrestling fans who love talking wrestling. And our last channel, although it was so long ago, was mainly reactions, which it was great doing reactions. But one of the best parts was being able to talk wrestling with all of you. And we were lucky enough that we had a decent amount of people that talked with us.
Mhm.
So I'm really looking
Absolutely.
forward to getting back to that. So if you're on YouTube, please subscribe and share it. If you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it may be, 5-star review, rate, share it as well. But Snowden, talking wrestling,
Hmm.
we do it every day. Like
Every day.
this is truly this podcast, although we'll focus on specific topics and we'll get into other ideas, whether it be in the podcast or the YouTube channel. This truly is basically our text conversations just come to life.
Yeah, and that's part of how our old YouTube channel was it was just us. We didn't filter nothing, edit a whole lot. We'd put a camera up and we'd just watch wrestling and we'd react and review and talk and discuss, and that's a lot of what this is going to be too. It's just us, our opinions, our real thoughts that have made people laugh, have fun in the past. So we would hope to do that again.
We love to make people laugh, obviously, but we also love to talk wrestling. We are so dedicated in doing so that our first ever podcast, our first ever video, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing a SummerSlam preview and prediction video, but this is a bigger and better version. And how so, you might ask? Because Snowden is doing this. This is his Jordan flu game for episode 1. He's already going through a
Episode
battle.
one. Episode one. This is my Jordan flu podcast. I have a bum ankle right now. Okay. This could be a standing podcast, but I have to do it seated. I could hardly put any pressure on my right foot right now. This is a struggle. There's a lot of setup involved in order to, get a camera run. I got to plug it into the wall. I got to walk like 4 or 5 feet to do so. This is a lot to get going. So this is my Jordan flu game. Let's hope it goes well. If I perform like Jordan, we'll be all right.
A piece of me was kind of hoping that when we got on, you were going to be sat up like Kevin Nash in WCW with the leg out and
Oh
the
man.
blanket over it.
Missed opportunity. Missed
I feel
opportunity.
like for the video viewers
Missed
that
opportunity.
would have been a perfect view, but instead
Ah,
it's just you sitting down, relaxing, taking the weight off the injury
yep.
because let's be honest, you're one ankle lock away from being
Ah,
in a wheelchair.
Kurt Ankle. Kurt Ankle. Kurt Angle would have ripped my ankle off right now. Kurt Ankle. Might as well be his name, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Kurt says he won an Olympic gold medal with a broken freaking neck. Well, you completed or are going to attempt to complete a podcast with potentially a broken freaking ankle.
Yeah, we're gonna get that plaque, that YouTube plaque with a broken freaking ankle.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the goal. And the first picture is going to be your bandaged foot right next to it.
Absolutely.
So let's get into it. SummerSlam this Saturday. At this recording, this is after Monday Night Raw. This is before Friday Night SmackDown. Our podcast will go up every Thursday morning. So obviously, SmackDown has not happened yet. We are going to run through the entire card. We'll give a little bit of chatter on each match, maybe some more, some less, depending on the match or our thoughts. And we will give our predictions and we will track. We will see.
Yep.
We'll see what we did, what our records were. If you are not following our Twitter or our TikTok, please give a follow to them at C2Wrestling _. We will tweet out a little picture and it'll have all of our predictions for both of us. We'll see what we get right. We'll see what we don't get right. So we may as well just get underway. And I think
Absolutely.
the only way to do it is to start with a massive match. To be
Let's do
fair,
it.
every match is a massive match, but
Yes.
it is the first singles match in 10 and a half years for one man. And I feel like we have to talk about it first. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre with Seth Rollins as a special guest referee. Snowden, I got to ask you,
Mhm.
before we get into Punk and Drew, do you like Rollins being mixed in as the special guest ref, like just to get him on the card?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I usually am not a fan of forcing people into the card if they don't fit, but this is an opportunity where Rollins does fit. And, putting him as special ref, this only sets up the inevitable Punk versus Rollins match that we were going to get at Mania 40 for the now future. I think Rollins, as special guest referee, is great. He's very eccentric, in this gimmick he's had for the last few years. And the whole ref outfit he even had on Monday Night Raw was out there, a little outlandish. I want to see what he comes out like on Saturday. I was almost at Sunday. I keep forgetting the Saturday shows, but I'm looking forward to it. I think this is the one of the better special guest referee matches we've had. Usually they're kind of filler Raw matches, never this big of a caliber.
I like how it makes sense. You get him on the card, and also Rollins hasn't had another match besides his match with Priest since coming
Mm,
back. Keep him resting, get him to 100% for sure with his knee, because he
absolutely.
came back so quick that it was like there's no way he's
Yeah.
fully healed, but hopefully he is. It just makes sense, like you said. Normally I'd be against a special guest referee, especially for a match like this.
Hmm.
But I like how they're calling back to Triple H being the special guest ref for Punk.
Yep.
I don't think they mentioned Triple H being the special guest ref for Brian Cena.
No, I don't think they dropped that.
I think
Yeah.
they mentioned Punk. Was that Punk Del Rio? Or no, that was Punk Cena.
Yeah. Punk Cena. Yeah.
Punk Cena, and then Del Rio cashes in after.
Hmm.
They mentioned Brett versus Taker with Sean. So I
Yep.
like that they're doing the callback. It is a name that you want on the card. If
Of
he's
course.
not wrestling because no other match really makes sense for him, this is a good spot. So outside of that, we get the in-ring return of CM Punk, his first singles match in 10 and a half years. And it feels, if you told me Punk's coming back, and when he came back, you said, put your bet in on who his first singles match is going to be at a live show and who his first singles match will be at a pay-per-view. I would not have bet Dominic Mysterio for the live show, and I would
Yeah,
not have bet Drew McIntyre for a pay-per-view, but
agreed.
this is the biggest match that they could do.
Absolutely. I'll even go as far to say when Punk came back, obviously, always loved Drew, I've always loved Punk. Punk coming back, Drew versus Punk was nowhere on my radar. That was not a match I had even considered, to be honest. If you would have said that, threw that my way, Punk versus Drew, right at War Games when Punk returned, I would have probably scoffed at that. I'd been like, come on, Punk versus Drew, there's so many other matchups that Punk could do that hold more value than that. But man, Punk, Drew, Rollins, everybody involved, creative needs credit. They have made Punk versus Drew the hottest thing going. You know, I know the Bloodline whole feud is kind of slowed a little bit. So there's some opportunity for other feuds to take the top spot. But Punk versus Drew, man, they've made it the most must see thing right now.
And they've done it without any of the guys wrestling each other.
Yeah,
That's, I
crazy.
mean, I know Rollins faced Drew and now is mixed into this storyline, but Punk and Drew haven't even faced. This all
Yep.
started from the Royal Rumble. I do like that they mentioned Rollins may not disqualify someone. He may not
Mm-hmm.
count to 3. He may not count to 10 if they're on the outside because this match, all right, don't give it the no DQ, falls count anywhere. That's fine. But this build isn't for a normal match. This build
Correct.
with such animosity, anything should be able to happen. And having Rollins as a special guest referee, that adds to maybe this doesn't end in DQ. Maybe it ends with Rollins screws one of the two because he gets hit on accident, whatever that may
Mm-hmm.
be. Now the possibilities seem endless with having
Correct.
Rollins as a special guest ref. I've been flip flopping on who I think is going to win
Mm,
just because I feel this is not going to be just the only time they face. They have to face again. This can't be the
I
only
agree.
one. So who do you think makes sense? Who are you going with?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's like a what you want versus what you expect? Because I feel like there's no wrong choice here.
Yeah, I don't think there's much of a wrong choice either. I do completely agree. This is only match one, of their ongoing feud. They, I feel, have to face again down the line, and it's easy to set up a match too. There's so many ways to set up a match too. But what I think and what I want to see, I think, line up on this match, where I very much see not Rollins maybe not screwing Punk deliberately, but inadvertently, one way or another, kind of costing Punk the match. Drew comes out victorious, continues the Drew versus Punk feud slightly in the sense that Punk did not win, or Drew did not win clean over Punk, so Punk may want another match. And it also extends this Punk Rollins little rivalry they got going on because, well, Rollins cost Punk one way or another. Typical wrestling. It's very wrestling booking of them to do that. Um, Maybe there's a little bit more to it than that. Maybe that's a little just plain Jane and what people expect to happen. But again, sometimes we've said this before, the expectations can be exactly what we expect them to be and be good. It doesn't have to be something outlandish that we've never seen before. It can be exactly what we think it's going to be and still be great.
I think there's a very good chance we have one of two spots that happen in the match and will lead towards the finish. It is very likely we have Drew going for a Claymore, misses Punk, and hits Rollins. And then when Drew's got a pin on Rollins, Rollins counts to 2, stops, doesn't finish the count.
Mm-hmm.
Then on the flip side, I see a very possible Punk goes for his head kick, misses, Drew ducks, hits Rollins. Same thing happens. Punk has a pin on Drew. Rollins counts to 2, stops, doesn't count to 3.
Yeah.
I think Punk losing, although it feels like, no, there's no way Punk's going to lose his first match back. Drew's got Punk's bracelet that he wears all the time, whatever. I think Punk losing does better for the continuation of the storyline
Agreed.
rather than Punk beating Drew, even if it is from like a Rollins slip up or Rollins got claymored, whatever it may be. It
Yep,
just feels like if there is a situation to extend the rivalry for all three, it makes the most sense with Drew winning.
absolutely. Punk winning doesn't do a whole lot for anyone, in my opinion. If Punk wins, what's next for Punk? World title shot, against maybe Gunther, or maybe Priest, whoever wins that match. But if Drew wins, you still have more opportunity. Also, if Drew loses, what's next for Drew? That's a big thing. Drew needs a good win under his belt. He's kind of gotten the bad end of the stick, I'll say lately. But it's interesting. This match could go really anyway. I do very much think Drew wins, but I would not be shocked if Punk somehow wins. You had mentioned, Punk going for maybe his head kick and Drew ducks and Rollins gets hit. I can absolutely see something like that happening. And maybe Rollins strikes back, hits Punk with a super kick or a curb stomp, and Drew takes the win. And that's how Rollins falls Punk. But the Rollins Punk potential matchup is also very Mania fitting, which is a little bit of ways away. Maybe that match ends up happening somewhere around the Rumble, perhaps, but they got a few months before I see that match really going down. So, how do you slowly extend this feud?
It is a little easier with Punk and his stories just because, although he was injured, he doesn't wrestle every week. And I don't think we
Yeah,
expect him to wrestle every week. Rollins might,
yeah,
Drew might, but to extend these stories, it is easier, like as we mentioned, the bloodline, it's easy to extend these storylines when a guy like Roman isn't on every single week. Now, Punk
yep.
is fully cleared, so that would be a little bit different, but WWE is not going to have him wrestling every single night, live shows, whatever. You want to keep the spectacle to him, but at the same time, you want to keep him healthy. So I think they can kind of drag out Punk versus Rollins. It might be a little tough to get it all the way to Mania,
Hmm.
but the way to do that is Punk losing to Drew in the first match. And then
Agreed.
at some point, whatever, maybe they face a bad blood in a big match, whatever it may be. My official prediction, I'm going with Drew. I actually do think Drew wins. I think
Hmm.
it extends the storyline. And I think they gain so much traction on social media with this storyline, with this rivalry. Drew beating Punk, you have to log on to Twitter and see every single one of his tweets after that.
Absolutely. My final prediction, I am agreeing. I'm going with Drew. And there's a lot of reasons why, and that's a very small reason, but that's one of them. Drew going over Punk, that's gonna blow up the internet wrestling culture, they call it. That Twitter feed is gonna be pretty crazy for a little bit. And it's gonna be regardless. But Drew's been pretty hot online lately. Posting photos of him alongside Jack Perry, things like that. This feud's been hot, and I think they like to strike when the iron's hot for as long as they can. So they're going to keep on striking. They're going to extend this for a bit further.
Speaking of striking while the iron's hot, some say the iron was hot at Money in the Bank. Some say it was smart at Money in the Bank for this man, Braun Breaker, to not win the Intercontinental Championship. The rematch, we thought potentially it'd be a triple threat, change it up a little bit, but it is not. It is straight up one-on-one Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker, Intercontinental Championship. I think, look, I know I've seen a lot of people on social media complain about Sami Zayn's title reign. Before the match itself, I got to say, blasphemy that I've seen people slandering my king, Sami. How dare you?
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
totally fine with the finish at Money in the Bank, and win or lose, I'll be totally fine with the finish at SummerSlam.
yeah. I think we've talked about the Money in the Bank finish and all that, and I know we already aligned that. I think Sammy's been great as champion. We've previously discussed when you have Sammy beat a 666-day reign in Gunther at WrestleMania, you can't just have that person, Sammy, and whoever that winner is, go and lose their next defense. It kind of warrants a little bit of a run, in my opinion, to have somebody beat the likes of a Gunther or a Roman title reign, you know? And Bron is fantastic. Bron's one of my favorites. I'm a day one Bron fan. I stuck through those NXT 2.0 days. You know, some of us maybe didn't, but I definitely did. And I'm a big Bron guy. But Bron is also young, man, and he's got time. He's going to be one of the best. There's no reason to force it to happen. It will happen naturally. Money in the Bank and SummerSlam, I get it. They're only a month or so apart, but that makes a difference. You force that title on Braun at Money in the Bank, and it just comes a little forced. You know, again, the Sami reign is a little watered down then. It makes him beating Gunther a little bit more watered down, in my opinion. But when it comes to SummerSlam, this is the second rematch. Strike when the iron's hot. Braun is hot. This is maybe an early call, but I'm going Braun Breaker.
I do agree with you. I do think that month or 3 weeks, whatever the time from Money in the Bank to SummerSlam is,
Mm-hmm.
it has helped Braun's character.
Agreed.
Because if Braun just faced Sami at Money in the Bank and beats him, okay, yeah, he's just the cocky, arrogant heel. Now he's going into this match. Hungry Dog runs faster, thinks, talks about how he underestimated Sami Zayn. That's why Sami beat him. Sami has the I beat you once, I'll beat you again. This makes this match way more compelling rather than if
Absolutely.
Braun won and they're rematching, whatever it may be. I do think Braun wins.
Mm-hmm.
A piece of me thought, what if Ilya helps Sami? Obviously,
It's possible.
it seems Ricochet is heading to AEW, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not impossible that he were to come back.
That's
But
true.
but my thinking is when I look at the rest of the card, there are multiple matches that there's a very good chance we get interferences in. And we're not going to have 2, 3, 4 matches with title changes or maybe retains from people returning or interfering. So I
Yeah.
don't think Ilya comes back and, he's been out for a week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it is. I don't think he comes back and helps Sami, but it's not impossible. I wouldn't be shocked if it
Mm-hmm.
happened, but I'm picking Braun. I think Braun wins. And then I think Ilya returns and they feud for the Intercontinental title down the line.
Yeah, I can see that. I also don't think there's any type of interference in this match. I think Ricochet returning is a bit more likely even than Ilya interfering, in all honesty. Ilya, who also I love, is fantastic. Big Ilya fan. It's a little forced to maybe even have him interfere in the match, you know? Not every match needs an interference. You know, like you said, this last month has helped Braun's character, establish him a little bit more. This rematch could make him become a little bit more beastly. You know, he could really shut down Sami in this match. It's a little bit different now since they already faced once. I do also want to say, in relation to the Money in the Bank match, you know, Braun losing to Sami, not everyone has to be undefeated forever. You know, not everybody can be undefeated forever. This guy can be a beast, a monster, but also like take a pinfall here and there. It's okay. It didn't hurt Braun at all to take that loss. It only helped him, to be honest. These guys that go undefeated for so long, it's rare for somebody like Gunther to go as undefeated as he's gone for a while and still be great, considered one of the greats. How many really long undefeated streaks can we really name off the top of our heads? You know, there's a couple out there, but none of them are remembered that fondly.
For sure. And especially stayed consistent and stayed interesting,
Mm-hmm.
which is the biggest
Yep,
thing. Ron, we have to remember, he is young, but he's still new to the main roster.
correct.
There is still a chunk of Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown viewers that don't watch NXT,
Yes,
that
yep,
didn't know what he was doing. Granted, he did have a few matches on Raw when he faced Ziggler for the title. They had him in the Rumble. They sprinkled him in as they usually do.
yeah.
But you have a guy show up, establish the character, which they've done, and then establish the chase, establish
Mm-hmm.
the hunger. You know, don't just immediately have him show up, beats a couple guys pretty brutally, and then beats one of your top guys who's not only defeated one of the longest Intercontinental title reign of all time, but the year before was a WrestleMania main eventer. Losing to him
Yeah,
the first time does not hurt him at all.
not at all. Not at all. I'm glad you bring up the NXT to main roster comparison because that's something I want to touch on. That there's a little bit of a disconnect. WWE wrestling is better than ever right now, but there still is a bit of a disconnect between NXT and these main roster shows. So me again, I stuck around through NXT 2.0. I've watched it all, like a lot of us have. So Braun, in a way, has been around for years now. Braun is very established to me. Braun walking into Monday Night Raw winning a belt is not a big deal to me because he's so established. But again, there's a more so casual audience that Braun has only been around to for a few weeks now, if you really think about it. So it takes a little bit of time to establish this guy. And that was a little bit of trouble under that potential Vince era, was calling people up from NXT to the main roster, and there was such a disconnect. It's been a lot better in the last few years with them kind of crossing over, a little bit more involvement, even just mentioning during the shows. Braun has been at the Rumble. He wrestled on Raw a couple times, but he's also been name dropped on commentary a bunch. And those little things, they make it a little bit more relative. They make it easier to find matches with Braun Breaker, watch them, see clips online, and helps him a little bit, helps him with his name value. But overall, Braun needs time. He's had, I think, enough time now. Again, it's only been a month since Money in the Bank, but I think now's the time. I think you put that IC title on Braun.
Agreed. And I think this is obviously going to be a fantastic match. I'm very interested in this next match because this next match to me, this could be a real boomer bust match with this style matchup with these two competitors.
All
I
right.
think it'll be a good match, but it is the mid card title on Friday Night SmackDown, the United States Championship. Logan Paul defends against LA Knight. This is a feud that's been going on for months now. Again, we mentioned being able to drag out feuds for a big match with guys who don't wrestle every single week. This is the prime example of them having the end goal of Logan Paul versus LA Knight to be at SummerSlam. Started this feud 2.5 months ago, however long. We are now finally here. I've kind of gone back and forth on this match too. Like, I don't think I'd be shocked either way. I know, like, everyone seems to be on get the title off Logan. He barely defends it,
Yeah.
and LA Knight is gonna win the title and finally get a title. I'm absolutely down with that, but I'm not fully convinced that WWE is done with having Logan hold that title, have it there at every podcast he's on.
Hmm.
I mean, look,
I
love
agree.
him or hate him, he's got that title in a picture with former president of the United States when he's doing an interview.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
guy doesn't defend the title, but they are all about
Publicity.
marketing. Are
Hmm.
they do they think they've gotten all of the juice out of that squeeze, or do they think there's a few drops left and we get a little, brass knucks cuckery or something and Logan in his hometown
Yeah.
steals it from LA? I'm not convinced it's as cut and dry as, yep, LA Knight's winning and we're giving the fans what they want. Everybody be happy.
To me, it's been interesting. You say, is there? There's a few more drops left to squeeze out of that title again, and perhaps there is, but I think there's a larger fruit to maybe squeeze with Logan. Is maybe they're thinking too. I do completely agree with the larger majority. Two title matches in this time frame of a title run, to me, doesn't matter who the belt's on. Doesn't really float my boat anymore. Logan's great. Love Logan as a champion, but it's time to get that title off him. I am choosing LA Knight for my prediction. I do think LA Knight, when you have this mega over baby face going against the hometown heel who is a mega over heel, again, it's a strike while the iron's hot thing. And the iron's hot for LA, but it's teetering a little bit. The iron was hotter for LA at a point. So that maybe gives a little bit more reason to continue this marketing adventure that is the Logan US title run. So it is interesting. I could see it going either way. I am choosing LA, but I also don't want to choose a title change for every match. So it's tough. You got LA likely to win this match. I also think Braun is likely to win the other mid card title match. We'll touch it a little bit on the future matches, but I don't think every title's changing hands at this show. So it's tough. Who knows?
There's a few matches that I do think we are getting retained for. And there's just something in my gut. Like, look, I know LA Knight is the pick here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying this right now. LA Knight is the one you should probably bet your money on. But there is just something in my gut that sees Logan in his hometown. Wouldn't be surprised if Jake is sitting front row or something since they're back in Cleveland and someone slips him the brass knucks
Yeah,
and he cheats to beat LA Knight. I'm
yeah,
going to pick Logan just because I have that weird feeling in his hometown where he's going to get booed in his hometown. The crowd will be against him. Like you mentioned though, I mean this could be if you don't pull the trigger now on LA Knight, this could be when will you at this point? But
yeah.
just I'm going with my gut. Something tells me like Jake or Greg Paul, one of them is gonna be front row and is gonna hand the knucks to Logan when the ref isn't looking, and that's how he beats LA Knight.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. If Logan's going to retain, I think that's pretty much how it happens. Yes. Um, don't forget, LA did get a pinfall win over Logan a few weeks ago, in which not many people have. You know, no one has during the title run, at least. You know, so that is
Cody
pretty
has.
big.
Cody
Oh
has.
yes, you're right. Cody has. Correct. You're right. You're right. Big point. So, but either regardless, still, you know, they're not just tossing out wins to these guys against, you know, these champions like Logan. So I think it means a little something that they had LA Knight go over him on SmackDown. But it might mean nothing. You know, this is all me just kind of thinking, oh, it could, but who knows nowadays? You know, anything could really happen. I do think it's time we get that title back on SmackDown every week. I think every title needs to be on TV every week at this point unless LA or Logan, sorry, is going to show up a bit more, I think you got to take that title off. I do think it's time.
And we also are not too far away from the SmackDown move over to USA. Not saying that means there needs to be big title changes for that or big title changes saved for that. But I could see that being, Logan defends in the rematch first night SmackDown on USA, Logan versus LA Knight for the US title again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's like September or something, right? They moved to USA.
I want maybe October, but yeah, it's around there,
Yeah,
which
I
is a
think
fair
they
point.
ran
I
a
didn't really
commercial
consider
tonight.
that.
I forget when the exact date, but it's not that far away,
Yeah.
is what I'm getting at. So I'm gonna stick with my gut and say Logan retains, and we're gonna stick on SmackDown, but move over to the Women's Championship. Bayley defending against the Queen of the Ring, Nia Jax, and I guess I'll split this into two, Snowden.
Mm-hmm.
One, who wins this match? Two, do we get a cash in? Last year we had a cash in. Does Lightning strike back to back years with the women's division?
I personally don't think so. I think the women are due for a long Money in the Bank holder, and I think if you're ever going to do that, there's many people you could do it with, but it works with Tiffany really well to have her hold that briefcase for a while. Tiffany is the perfect person to hold the briefcase for a while, botch a bunch of cash-ins, get screwed over on a bunch of cash-in attempts, eventually come across with the right opportunity and win the belt. With that said, I think that's potentially what happens here on Saturday is that Tiffany goes to cash in, or at least somehow gets involved, briefcase in hand, something happens, Nia gets distracted, Bayley picks up the win, retains the belt, continuing this Bayley title run. I don't know if the Nia Tiffany thing will become a feud between themselves. I think they're going to kind of ride out that team a little bit. But that's what I want to see happen too. You know, I'd rather that ride out. Just Tiffany holds the briefcase, Nia and Tiffany running around a little bit together. Bayley is champion. There's a few other matches you can throw down her way. I think the best move is for Nia, who I will admit was not a fan of pre her return. Has been great since she's come back. I still don't think it's maybe time to put the belt on her, though. I think you got to let Bayley run around with that championship for a little bit longer.
I do agree that I think I see the finish being Tiffany's maybe thinking about a cash in or maybe gets on the apron or something. And Nia, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Bayley rolls her up or something like that. It seems like you're picking Bayley.
Correct.
I too am picking Bayley. I think what you said makes the most sense, but I will say there is a piece of me I've been saying to you for ever since Nia's come back. Nia has improved for
Hmm.
sure. She's
For
gotten
sure.
much better. They did give her the Queen of the Ring, which is a big, a big win, whatever. There is a piece of me that is interested in seeing Nia holding the championship and her sidekick is right over her shoulder with the money in the bank.
Hmm.
And it's kind of what they were teasing with the Judgment Day when
Yeah.
Priest had the money in the bank and Balor was going for the title. That it
Hmm.
would be Balor wins the title and then the friction of, oh, don't cash in on me, yada, yada. Like
Yeah.
very similar. There's a piece of me that wants to see that. I don't think we get it. And I'm not saying this is a piece of me that is like clamoring for it, but it would be something that interests me. I do think it's a
Agreed.
logical storyline that wouldn't be half bad, but I'm going Bayley.
Yeah, I think that's something a little different. We've discussed this off the channel before that we're 20 something years into this Money in the Bank match, and there's been two matches a year a lot of these years. We've seen a lot of these briefcases at this point. So there's only so much new you can do. It's a lot of the reason why Drew lost his cash in the night of winning, just to kind of flush the Money in the Bank out. They've kind of roped themselves into needing this thing every year when they don't really need it. So how do you like reinvent a little bit? And with the women, you have a bit more opportunity because it hasn't been around as long. But it's also something they haven't really done with the men, to my recollection, is having someone like Nia be champion and her sidekick Tiffany be the Money in the Bank holder, and have them kind of run around paired together. Maybe ultimately that's what it comes down to, is Tiffany cashing in on Nia, which that could be great too. Tiffany is hella over. Tiffany is big right now. Even when she was brand new to the main roster and they had Elimination Chamber in Australia, she was so over. So having somebody like Tiffany, who is a heel, have that long Money in the Bank heel run, cash in against the heel Nia to become face and champion, that could be pretty big.
We know we can make the assumption she's not going to cash in also because she's about to get a brand new briefcase. So
Correct.
odds
Correct.
are they're not going to make this brand new briefcase and immediately have her cash it in. And I do think we're going to have the longest
Mm-hmm.
female holding the briefcase since
Yeah.
Carmella. I think Carmella held it the longest.
Yes. Yeah.
And what you mentioned, I can't think of anyone who's done that storyline. It's been done multiple times with the Rumble winner
Yes.
and their tag partner or someone in their faction is the champion. But Money in the Bank wise, I don't think anyone has done it. So it would be a fresh way to do things, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it is the way they're going to go. So we're both on Bayley, going from the Queen of the Ring to the King of the Ring, and that is the Ring General. Gunther goes one on one with Damian Priest for that World Heavyweight Championship. If you are listening, we are pointing towards the World Heavyweight title behind Snowden. This is one of the three matches that I just feel like it seems so obvious what the outcome's going to be that I almost think it doesn't happen.
So I agree. I do agree. I think this is the most obvious outcome match, so that leads me to believe it doesn't happen. But I am going to go with the obvious here. I think this is that predictability is best sometimes type match, and I do think we get a new world heavyweight champion in Gunther here, and I also think we should get a new world heavyweight champion in Gunther here. Now, I want to start by just talking about Priest for a minute, where Priest deserves a standing ovation after this match, win or lose. Priest has been great ever since he's come up to the main roster. Even in NXT, he was fantastic. Even pre WWE, he was great. He has seized the opportunity maybe it was a little bit of right place, right timing, but Priest is on that older side too, along with some of these other guys like LA Knight, where if you don't really strike when the iron's hot, are you ever going to? Priest kind of slipped his way in there and made a name for himself. And this is a fresh matchup. Priest versus Gunther, main eventing potentially a SummerSlam. That's a big fresh matchup that we haven't really gotten in a while. I'm a big Priest guy, loving the Priest run. In all honesty, I do think it's been good. Maybe it hasn't been the most extravagant, but it doesn't always have to be again. Establish Priest as a new champion, world champion, have him lose to somebody big like Gunther, hot potato that title around a little bit. Gunther walking out as a world champion is what I want to see.
If you asked me 2.5 to 3 weeks ago my thoughts on this match, it would be a complete 180 to my thoughts today. I think they've done a fantastic job in a quick build to a match that we knew as soon as Priest retained at Money in the Bank. Okay, it's Priest versus Gunther. We already know Gunther is the number one contender. He won the King of the Ring. There was no story to it. It felt like
Mm-hmm.
this match is just this is the champion and this is the number one contender, so this is the match, which I wouldn't be crazy about. You got to give me a story more than just I won the number one contender and you're the champion. We will fight. And they've done a great
You
job
know,
in that short time of building Gunther as a heel and building Priest as a face that
yeah.
people want to see
Mm-hmm.
Priest beat up Gunther. They've done a great job in these last few weeks.
I agree. I haven't seen a clip recently of Priest coming out to the arena and how his reactions have progressively gotten greater, a lot louder. Priest is definitely getting himself over as a potentially new babyface. It's an interesting thought, the I won the number one contender, so I fight for the championship type build, which I agree I'm not usually big on, but if that type of build is ever going to work, it is with a guy like Gunther. Gunther's very cut and dry, straightforward, ring general, likes to wrestle, wants to win belts, win matches. I'm number one contender. End of story. I don't gotta, talk crap about your family or do this or that. I'm just here to win matches, beat people up. So it is interesting that they're adding some layers on top of it, actually developing a little bit more of a feud between Priest and Gunther. I don't know the path if Priest were to retain. I know there's the obvious Finn route down the road, but I don't know if that's necessary anymore. I think there was maybe a time and place where they could have done that. And I hate to say it for Finn, but I think Finn might have been one of those people like LA Knight where they didn't maybe strike when the iron was hot. And I don't know if a Finn title runs is necessary anymore. I think putting that belt on Gunther opens up more opportunities, more fresh matchups. I think that gets the eyes on Raw a bit more, which, in my opinion, is still great, better than it really has been in a while. But it's kind of slacking without a Cody Rhodes. Priest has been fantastic again. I want to reiterate that. But I think you got to put this belt on Gunther.
I agree. I do think Gunther wins. And I think the big tell for what's going to happen in this match and the women's world title match, which we'll get into next, was a moment on Raw when Balor said at SummerSlam, Priest, you're going to go out there alone. Rhea, you're going to go out there alone. And tonight, I'm going to go out there alone. We're all going to get the job done, so on and so forth. Balor obviously loses to Gunther, but I think this is the exact route where Priest loses because he doesn't get that help from the Judgment Day, or maybe they go to help him and mess up and they went against what they said. They weren't going to get involved and they got involved and it went against them. The feud between Priest and Gunther, I do see there being a rematch just
Mm-hmm.
because they've done such a great job at making you feel for Priest and cheer for Priest. But I do agree. This is if you're betting your money on anyone to win on Saturday night, and you need to go with the safest pick, the smartest pick, what feels the most right. This is the match. Gunther wins the World Heavyweight Championship, and we start his reign, and he gets a much deserved World Heavyweight title run after such a fantastic Intercontinental
Yeah.
title.
This is where you'll get a little bit of a glimpse of how our minds work in wrestling and how one little conversation can spin off on tangents. Where now, as we're talking, I'm booking in my mind, and it all just starts to make more and more sense when I think about it. Where you can easily have a Gunther win that belt. I do think a Priest Gunther rematch is on the cards, but I think that rematch is built for a Raw main event. In all honesty,
For
and
sure.
the next show being Bash in Berlin, Germany, is massive, massive, massive for Gunther. That is going to be a France type crowd, a Puerto Rico type crowd reaction. Having Gunther walk into that crowd with the belt is big. Prior to King of the Ring, I did not want Gunther to win the Money in the Bank before that match was even on paper a thing. But I did say a few times, I think Gunther winning the Money in the Bank and cashing in RVD style at Berlin to win the title would be incredible. To see Gunther go in and win the title would be great. But to see him go in and win the title in a rematch, I don't know if it hits as much. So I think you have to have him go in as champion. And then again, a glimpse of how our minds work and how we book. I think it's easy to me to have Gunther retain against Priest on Raw. Who do you have face Gunther in Berlin? I think you have a guy who just came off a fresh big win in Drew McIntyre against Punk at SummerSlam. Drew versus Gunther in Berlin. Gunther, I think, retains. Potentially, Punk even costs Drew again, setting up that second Drew Punk match at next following 2 months. Bad blood. I don't even know if they're going to do a show in September, but
I think
this is just how
September's
my
a
mind works.
Saudi show.
Is it a Saudi show? Okay.
I think it's
I
Crown
wasn't sure if
Jewel.
that was November,
Oh, it might be
but
November.
that's just how my mind rolls. Like there's all these booking opportunities, options, ways they can go that I can see that route kind of happening.
I think it makes sense to have Gunther go in as the champion. If he wasn't in the title match at SummerSlam, say he had a different feud for not to maybe the King of the Ring finals was at SummerSlam or
Yeah.
whatever,
Mm-hmm.
then I could see he would win the title there. But since he gets the title match before, it just feels like it defeats all purposes of him losing. And also, people have gotten on Triple H for having people lose their first attempt at a title and building towards. So it would be
Yeah.
a nice, hey, they don't do it every time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes sense that on the first attempt, the person just wins. They don't need to build that struggle. They don't need to build that anticipation. So I do think Gunther walks out as the world heavyweight champion and Priest doesn't get the help from Judgment Day. Maybe they don't even come out at all. But where they might come out is the next match. And that's
Mm.
the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. Liv Morgan defends against Rhea Ripley. I've seen a lot of people who think Rhea is going to stick with Dom. I don't see it happening. It is quite obvious when you have someone who is so popular that they are getting cheered, and you have someone who is so hated that they are getting booed. When you get to this point where you have to choose one or the other, it doesn't make sense to have Rhea go back with Dom and kind of be heelish again. It is clear the face turns have already started with Damian Priest and with Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
And Rhea will be an even bigger face. She's already massive. She will be an even bigger face when Dominic, whether accidentally or on purpose, costs her the World Heavyweight Championship and helps Liv Morgan retain. This is one I feel great about saying Liv Morgan walks out of SummerSlam with the Women's World Heavyweight Championship.
This is an intriguing one. I prior to this Live World title run, I this is maybe a hot take. I have said in the past, I don't really get Liv. I was never that big on Liv Morgan. She was there. She was fine. She was good. but Liv was never this superstar that a lot of the internet would make her out to be, in my opinion. Um, Ever since she's taken this world title, it's the best version of her she's ever been, for sure. So it's only been a few months too, but I do agree. I think Liv walks out with the title. I think that's the only way here is to have Liv retain. Putting the belt on Rhea doesn't necessarily extend this as much as it does having Liv retain. Liv retains, there's so many options there. Where does Liv retain with Dom, without Dom? Does somebody help her? Somebody not help her? Does Judgment Day come out? Do they not? There's just so many avenues they can go that this feud is wide open. You know, this is not the end. This is hardly the beginning of this rivalry, in my opinion. Um, Keeping that belt on Liv, I would say, is best for business right now. Continue this feud and see where it goes. You know, this is one of those play by ears to me. This is not something that I don't think they have set in stone what's going to happen in 6 months with Liv and Rhea. I think every week they're kind of seeing reactions here, seeing what happens with Dom, Liv, Rhea, Carlito, everybody involved. And they're making decisions day of potentially. I think Liv retains. I think they continue this feud for a little while longer. I think it's a missed opportunity if we don't get some form of a Liv Rhea Dominic ladder match of sorts. You know, I
That's a
think
great
everybody's
point.
been calling for that. You know, but they gotta set that up. SummerSlam, of course, would have been perfect, but you could do it at any show. You know, I think that's got to happen.
That'd be an easy way to build towards that is Dominic accidentally helps Liv against Rhea on Saturday. Liv retains. Obviously, I said I feel like Liv's going to win. A big thing on that is Rhea just had this title for a
Yep,
year.
yep.
Granted, there's a few other challengers she could face, but she's going to win it back from Liv and then probably rematch Liv. And then you go into the few other people that she could potentially face that would still be fresh. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it makes more sense to have Liv retain. There's so much more meat on the bone
Mhm.
with Liv getting the help again, whether on purpose or on accident, from Dominic and retain the title and extend this storyline. But I feel very good in saying Liv will retain the title. And
Absolutely.
I think this could be if we do get Dominic on purpose costing Rhea. This is the money moment where the smooch happens while Rhea's, you know, laid down, leaned over the bottom rope, looking on angrily as she just got screwed. That's the money shot. That's the all over Twitter. That's the God, Dominic is the luckiest man in the world. That's where it all goes to. I feel like they have the perfect opportunity to do it, to make you really lean into booing Dom
Yeah.
and lean in to cheering for Rhea, which we already do.
Yeah, I could totally see that pretty much exactly happening. Potentially later on or earlier in the night, maybe Judgment Day does come out during the Priest Gunther match, and maybe they do inadvertently even screw Priest, and this further separates Rhea and Priest from Judgment Day. They both have this slow face turn going against the now JD, Finn, Dom trio. Carlito fits in really wherever he fits in there, who's been great since joining Judgment Day. I want to make a note of that too. He's been so funny. So I want to keep him involved. But this is clearly the downward spiral of Judgment Day, the slow separation of the group somehow. It feels almost a little too soon in a way. This is very a little impromptu with the Rhea injury. I feel like if she did not get hurt, we wouldn't be getting all of this right now. I think this would have been a little bit more long term thinking. But you know, you got to roll with the punches sometimes. Things happen. That's the name of the game. And they change course, and it's happening a little bit sooner than maybe anticipated. But it's working. What they're doing right now is hot again. Again, Judgment Day from top to bottom has been great. Raw's been great. They're doing nothing wrong right now, in my opinion. I'm confident in whichever route they go. I want to see what's next
From one big faction to
to the next.
the biggest faction in arguably WWE history. It is the main event of SummerSlam. It is Cody Rhodes defending the WWE Undisputed Universal Heavyweight Championship against some might call the real tribal chief and the leader of the bloodline. Throw the ones up for Solo Sikoa. We'll do it Sabu style on the
That's what I was just gonna say,
screen.
Sabu
Yeah.
style. Because I'm on that again, ankle injury pod, you
Yeah.
know.
This, I mean, credit to Solo. He has taken such a step up.
Yeah.
They have made Solo feel bigger, whether you are putting out memes of him or not. When you do hashtag SummerSlam, it is the Solo Sikoa emoji that pops up. It is not the Cody Rhodes emoji. It is not CM Punk. It is not Seth Rollins. It is Solo Sikoa. So
Yeah.
when we talked about the WWE Women's Championship, I said it's a two-part question. I said, who wins the match and do we get a cash in? This also is a two-part question. Who wins the match and does he return? And he is who most would call the real tribal chief, the champion of champions, Roman Reigns.
it's tough. I don't know. I think they need him to return, to be honest. I think Roman has to return. I think, again, even inadvertently, they've maybe booked themselves into a corner and need Roman to return now. Solo has been great. I've seen him get a little bit of flack, but it's not real flack. He's been fantastic. The bloodline's been great. There's a new iteration of the bloodline, I should say. I get it. It's not original Sami Zayn, Usos, Roman bloodline. Maybe it's not peak bloodline story, but it's still been fantastic. This is a great extension of what they've created. When it comes to the match itself, Cody versus Solo should be a good match. Both those guys can go. Should be nothing wrong with the match. Solo winning the championship is a crazy thought to me. Is it too soon for Solo? Is it? Like he's only held one North American championship. Like it's not often guys skip all those belts and go right to the top. That really establishes them as kind of like a next level wrestler. I think a lot of Sheamus when I think of guys that skip their way to the top. And Sheamus has had a star-studded career. Solo will too, I'm sure, but I don't know. Is it too early? What do you do if Solo does win the belt? Does Roman retain to face Solo? If Cody retains, does Roman return against Cody? Does he still have beef with Solo? Where do they go after this? I have no idea.
That's the beauty of it. This has been done pretty well. Granted, SmackDown has gotten a little repetitive with the finishes. They had 2 straight weeks of the same exact finish essentially. But now we have a little bit of a twist. We have the Bloodline 2.0 the night before is going for the tag team titles. There's a chance Jimmy returns on SmackDown. There's a chance they just win the tag titles. And now the faction already has titles in the group. I can see them winning the tag titles and Solo not winning the title to help elevate the other members besides Solo who are newer to the WWE audience. I just feel, again, it's one of those where it feels so obvious Cody's going to retain and Roman returns, whether it's during the match or after, that it's like, is it too obvious? Is it, is it that cut and dry? Which, look, I'm fine. That's basically what I want to happen. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that is the wrong move, but it is. Is it the move that they make? I do think there is this chance that they do have. So I don't think he's going to. And you mentioning the big jump, it'd be a massive jump. Like we can't undersell this. It would be beating the guy who is literally the face of the company. And then going into a feud with a guy who carried the company for 5 years
Yeah.
and who others would argue is the actual face of the company.
Yeah.
Like that is, you want to talk about having to up your game. That is, I don't know if there's anyone that new into their career you could expect them to be put in that role and swim. I do think Solo would survive. I just don't know how well it would go. And then also on top of it, yes, the whole story of the tribal chief has been revolving around Roman lost the title and losing has consequences, whatever. But that is such a strong storyline. It is my same kind of thinking with the Judgment Day. Priest and Balor and all that friction. It's such a strong storyline that it doesn't necessarily need the title. So I think my prediction, I do think Cody retains. I think we get a returning Kevin Owens and a returning Randy Orton who help during the match, even
Hmm.
the odds a little bit for Cody to retain. And then maybe Bloodline 2.0 gets the upper hand after the match. And then Roman comes out. I think that is probably the most likely outcome. But we've seen crazier things happen.
We have. We definitely have. I do also agree. Again, I think that is the most likely outcome, and I think it is the outcome we get. I think Roman does return. I think it's more to get retaliation against Solo for taking out Paul Heyman, things like that. I also think Cody, I don't want to say has to return, but by
Retain.
having Cody lose the belt, yeah, retain, sorry. By having Cody lose the belt, you miss a lot of opportunities with Cody there. And don't get me wrong, Cody can win the belt 10 more times before he's said and done wrestling. But you have like a textbook must happen Cody Orton feud at a point. Like that's so easy and it's going to be so great that again, you can do that in 2 years. It doesn't matter. You can have Cody win the belt 3 more times in between, blah, 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 blah. But right now, Orton's so over, bigger and better than ever. Cody's so over, bigger and better than ever. Seems like the time. You take that title off of Cody. What's next? Does Cody go against Solo again? Does Roman beat Solo? Do you even put that belt back on Roman ever? There's so much that can happen. It's tough to say. My final prediction, I do think Cody retains. I think Roman returns. I do think we get a whole mess of a show at the end with Orton coming out, Kevin Owens coming out, the Bloodline coming out. I think we're going to get this massive brawl. Ladies and gentlemen, maybe even Heyman's name pops up. Not name pops up, but he comes out, does his typical ladies and gentlemen, announces Roman, or the music just hits, one or the other. But one way or another, we're seeing him come back, our tribal chief. Put up the ones for Roman Reigns.
I cannot wait. And I do
Can't wait.
think a Roman return, it's the crowd has been clamoring for it.
Mm-hmm.
When it happens, we've mentioned multiple times striking while the iron is hot. It feels like even though it's expected, it would still get such a loud reaction to happen at
Absolutely.
SummerSlam. Guaranteed big moment, guaranteed. You end the night on an absolute massive bang. I do agree with you. I think Cody still has this feud with Randy. He also still has this inevitable feud with The Rock that is
Correct.
going to come at some point. We don't know what the end game is, whether, it is Cody Rocket Mania, Roman. We don't know. But Roman and Solo are going to face at some point.
Yes.
And that match does not need the WWE Championship because
Correct.
that match is for a title in itself, and that title is the head of the table.
Correct. Now, I want to touch on that match and just that potential feud because it's very intriguing to me because WrestleMania, we were there. We went. You're wearing the shirt or the Jade shirt, drinking the cup right now. It's interesting because Solo Roman was never really on my radar at that time. It was nothing that like kind of really super intrigued me. Um, And then, Roman loses, goes away. Solo slowly kind of takes over the bloodline, makes it his own thing. It really hasn't been until recently that they've really made it like Solo taking over the bloodline. Screw Roman, forget about Roman. It seems like at first they were kind of going a different route where Solo was maybe just upholding the bloodline until Roman comes back. But it seems like they've pivoted again, striking while the iron is hot, and maybe they're going to try to capitalize on a Roman Solo feud. Where it's again intriguing is that seems so cut and dry. Roman wins, beats Solo, but what does that do for Solo? I
I
don't. I don't see
I don't
much of a
think
way
it's
out of
that
that
cut
for
and
Solo.
dry. I really
Yeah,
don't. I think if there's we know Roman has no issue losing to his family. He gave Jay the big moment. That has elevated Jay massively. I truly think we get Solo Roman because Solo loses, they go for the Tribal Chief title, whatever. And that's where the Bloodline 2.0 helps Solo because
yeah,
Roman is not coming back and immediately having Jay,
yes,
immediately
yep,
having, maybe he might have Jimmy right away. He's not going to have Jay. Maybe it's Sami who gets added on, or maybe it's Cody, whatever it may be.
yeah,
There's still bridges that need to be mended. And it
hmm
also needs to be Roman needs their help and is
yeah,
asking for them. We've already seen the seeds planted when Heyman and Jay walk past each other, and Heyman's all distraught, and Jay looks at him, and you can see it in Jay's head. Oh my God, my family is falling apart. But I can't think about that. I gotta, handle myself. We've seen those seeds planted. I think a little bit of fantasy booking and a SummerSlam. Cody retains. Solo goes after him after, whatever it may be. Roman returns. It sets up Roman versus Solo. And that first match, Solo beats Roman with the help of Bloodline 2.0. And it goes into Roman looking for the help of his cousins again, looking for the help of his honorary Uce. And that sets up the massive multi-man match, whether it's at Survivor Series or a different pay-per-view. And then it sets up, maybe a War Games. And then you have again one-on-one Roman Reigns solo, and Roman comes victorious in the end because there's nothing wrong with losing to Roman in the end, but Solo needs something to
yeah,
elevate him to make it
yep.
feel like he has a genuine chance in this. But he will not start by winning the WWE Championship. That's not the
I
something
agree.
he's going to get. It's
I
going to
agree.
be
I mean,
Cody.
I do think that's the only way to do it is Roman returning and kind of Roman soloing Sikoaing, soloing against this new bloodline. This whole 4 or 5 man faction potentially going against Roman. Roman can't get any help. No one's coming to his side because of his past. He's, screwed everybody once or twice. He has no friends, no family at his side. And it is kind of his fight for the bloodline again, for Jimmy, for Jay, for potential Sami, Cody, War Games. There's so much fantasy booking involved. We've talked about it ourselves. We see it online every day. So many routes they can go. I concur. None of these routes start with Solo winning this world title at SummerSlam.
So that'll wrap up the SummerSlam preview and predictions and podcast numero uno. If you are watching on YouTube, there's going to be multiple videos posted after this. We will have another podcast dropping next Thursday. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple, whatever it may be, please share, review, be ready for next Thursday when the podcast drops. But if you want more, it is on our YouTube and then also our Twitter and TikTok at C2Wrestling _. It's where clips will be posted, but it's also we'll we'll just chat wrestling sometimes. Tweet at us, whatever. We'll be on there active, chatting it up, whatever it may be. Because like we said before, this channel, we just love talking wrestling, and that's exactly what we're gonna do.
Exactly what we're going to do. Glad to do it again as well. It's been a little while. This is, again, a long time coming for us, but we've said it a bunch. And I think we're doing this we're striking when the iron's hot. Wrestling is hot right now. We love wrestling. We love talking wrestling. We want to make a little bit of a name for ourselves in this wrestling community, and we're going to do it. We're striking while the iron's hot. C2 Wrestling. Follow, like, subscribe. Let's see it happen.
Absolutely. This has been multiple years in the making, as crazy as it sounds, but it is true. Multiple years in the making. So please share, like, 5 stars, whatever it may be. Help us grow. We are just starting now, but this is the beginning of something that is going to be very fun and I look forward to. So thank you so much for watching and or listening. It's Chris and Chris, C2 Wrestling, so much more to come. So come along for the ride.